Hello and welcome to this special radio town hall meeting against corruption. Our topic today is whistleblowers and the challenge of absence of legal protection in Nigeria. This radio town hall series against corruption is organized by the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development, PRIMORG. PRIMORG is a civil society group with a mandate to promote good governance, participation and accountability in Nigeria. This town hall meeting against corruption is supported by the MacArthur Foundation. I am Adaobi Obiabomo, the program manager at PRIMORG. Today's town hall meeting features cases of individuals who have become the victims after blowing the whistle on corruption. Ms. Fidelia Onogaife was sacked by the Netherlands Embassy in Abuja after she blew the whistle on OPL 245. Though she risked her job standing up for Nigeria. Onogaife suffered dismissal alone, fighting through an expensive judicial process to get reprieve only last week. Citizen Ahmed Joseph is an architect. He is one of the victims of whistleblowing. According to our media partner Sahara Reporters, Ahmed was sacked after revealing corrupt activities at the Federal College of Education, Technical, Asaba Delta State. He has been abandoned to suffer alone with no job, salaries, and money to embark on a judicial process. Joseph Ahmed will join us at this town hall meeting shortly. In Nigeria, there is still no legal protection for whistleblowers. We also have on the program Dr. Kole Shettima. He is the African Director, MacArthur Foundation. Professor Chidi Odinkalo, Senior Team Manager, Open Society Justice Initiative. He will join us from London. We have Suraju Olarewaju, the Chairman, Human and Environmental Development Agenda, Heather Resource Center is right here. Godwin Onyacholem, Senior Program Officer, African Center for Media and Information Literacy, AfricMail. Tunde Salma, the convener, Good Governance Team, is also in the studio. And we have Igo Akerega, the President, Civil Liberties Organization, and the Bureau Chief of the Guardian newspaper. Let me introduce the moderator for today's town hall meeting. He is an award-winning writer, media consultant, broadcaster, poet, storyteller, and critic. He has over 20 years' experience in the industry. Benjamin Ubiri, popularly called Ben 200. We are glad to have you moderate this radio town hall meeting against corruption. Remember that you are part of this town hall meeting wherever you are listening to us from. Be ready to call in when we open the phone lines. Let me leave the stage for our able moderator, Benjamin Ubiri. He will come in after this timeout.
Masses are angry. They are angry because of the situation of things in the country.
This administration is just a scam when it comes to fighting of corruption.
In Nigeria, I don't think they see corruption as something that is illegal in the country. Corruption now in Nigeria is becoming legalized.
Voices against corruption. Let the people speak.
Hello and welcome to PRIMORG's public feedback series on corruption called Voices Against Corruption. And we ask, will more Nigerians be whistleblower if they know they are protected by the law?
Most Nigerians want a better Nigeria, but they wouldn't want to blow a whistle which they will not be protected. Every Nigerian knows that a step ahead of anything they do will bring about a change if the system is actually working.
There is no protection at all. Those who are blowing whistle in Nigeria are on their own. People who blow whistle has always been the targets of either oppression or deprivation, one deprivation or the other. So they are not protected. But if actually with the country is serious, those who are whistleblowers should be protected by the powers that be.
Actually, there is a serious security breach when it comes to whistleblowing. Everybody comes out with a different opinion, call it whistleblowing. When you are being paid off, the whole matter dies off. So I don't think there is anything like whistleblowing, and since the laws are not working, so the whistleblowing is very weak.
And average Nigerians, they are not really protected by the law.
If there is a room created for that in Nigeria for a citizen to be a whistleblower, it's very good. But you first of all say security. If the citizen will be protected, why not whistleblower? We are here to fight corruption.
There is a psychological fear for a lot of people in Nigeria where you see something going on and you're just scared. You don't want to be caught, or you probably don't even want people to know you're the one who blew the whistle. You feel me? So it's one of those situations where I wouldn't really think people feel very comfortable and secure being a whistleblower in the country. If we have a law that we all abide by, then that's a situation where we can feel like if I blow the whistle, I know that the law will protect me.
Well, thank you very much, Adobe Obiabumo, Program Manager for PRIMORG, and welcome once again to the program, wherever you're listening from. I am Benjamin Obiri. Ben 200 is my name. The whistleblower policy was adopted by the Nigerian government in 2016 to boost the fight against corruption and other economically motivated crimes. However, 3 years after the launch of such a noble policy, whistleblowers are still continue to face different kinds of persecution, while efforts to give the policy a legal backing is still lacking. Despite the revelation by the federal government that it has recovered over 605 billion naira through this whistleblower policy, the President Muhammadu Buhari administration's inability to institutionalize whistleblowing in Nigeria puts whistleblowers in a very precarious situation, making them targets and perpetrators of crimes and other corrupt acts. Our panel is set. It's now time for us to listen first to the story of Ms. Fidelia Onogaife, who was dismissed from the Netherlands embassy. Heather wrote a petition to the Foreign Affairs Ministry. It's been a whole long story, but a summary of it will be told by the chairman of Heather, Mr. Suraju Olariwaju. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
So tell us, maybe in the most summarized way, what did Ms. Fidelia Onogaife do and what happened to her? Probably very summarized.
Fidelia actually has done one of the greatest things that Nigerians could do for their country, Nigeria, and she actually deserves, if not national award, but a recognition by the Nigerian government. The Nigerian government has been pursuing a particular case of the Malabu, where it is ongoing in the trial process in Italy and in Nigeria, and investigation in the UK and also in the Netherlands. Interestingly, Nigeria has recovered about $85 million from the UK on this particular matter. Is asking for 1.something billion in Italy. It's already also challenged the companies for another 800, the bank, JP Morgan Chase Bank, for $805 million in the UK. And that investigation and prosecution process was going to be sabotaged by no other person than the Dutch ambassador, the Netherlands ambassador to Nigeria, Ambassador Petri, when the financial police in the Netherlands came to Nigeria to obtain some high-level intelligence document and report from the EFCC. The ambassador actually leaked that information to the MD of Shell in Nigeria, and Onogaife being a political advisor at the embassy, she's actually an employee of the Dutch Foreign Affairs Ministry, not just the embassy, the Foreign Affairs Ministry. So she's not employed by the Nigerian embassy of the Dutch government, but the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Interestingly, the financial police officer in the embassy informed the financial police representatives coming from the Netherlands that actually the ambassador already leaked the information about their arrival. And it was expected that the ambassador would actually tell the financial police. That is the process. Otherwise, it becomes a breach of the diplomatic protocol and also such a sensitive investigation and information to the oil company. But unfortunately, it never did. And Onajabi was actually privileged to that information after waiting for over a year without any mention of that case, without any attempt to investigate it. She felt obliged as a Nigerian, irrespective of her employment with the Dutch government, to actually she didn't go out to the public. She did within the system lodge a complaint that this was a breach. I have worked with 3 other ambassadors before now. This has never happened before. So it's the first time I'm experiencing it. Is this the normal process? And the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs assured her of the necessary protection for a whistleblower, because it is like whistleblowing. Set up a committee to come to Nigeria to do the investigation. The committee met with her, assured her of adequate protection that is deserving of a whistleblower. Shortly after, interestingly, contract, because it's on a contractual basis when you work there, was renewed for another 7 years. And a few months down the line, she received what was just a sack letter.
All right, I know that that's very painful. So what has HIDA, your organization, been doing for this dismissed whistleblower?
Yeah, so when we got wind of it, which was really interesting, we initially got wind of Ambassador Petri's diplomatic breach, and we did work with some of our partners in the UK, in the Netherlands, and Italy to file a petition against Ambassador Petri in the Netherlands to call for his investigation and prosecution. On now discovering that it has a whistleblower, which is a Nigerian, as the main person and a victim, because she was sacked. When she was sacked, no interview, no interrogation, no questioning, no query, nothing. So it was just, I think it was a height of the irresponsibility of a government, especially of the Netherlands, to do that. So we found to also observe the process of the prosecution in the Netherlands, and assigned a lawyer to also monitor the prosecution, the legal action that she took. And luckily she won, and the judge clearly said this is a whistleblower case. A sack cannot be in any way separated from the information she volunteered to the Minister of Foreign Affairs concerning the breach of protocol by the ambassador, and for that reason she declared that she deserved all the necessary compensation. And we're not going to stop at that. Unfortunately, the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Nigeria has been extremely irresponsible because this is actually a major indictment.
Yeah, we will take that as a little harsh, but thank you.
No, I mean, I take responsibility for my statement. No, it's not for you.
It's something we can look at.
I take serious responsibility for my statement, and I stand by it.
We hope that we can work that through between you and the ministry. But thank you very much. We'll still come back to you, but let's move on now to the former chairman of the National Human Rights Commission. He joins us via telephone, Professor Chidi Odin Kalu. Welcome, sir, to the program.
Hello, good day, sir. Thank you for having me.
Hello, sir. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. I don't know whether you hear me.
Yes, very clearly. Please, we'll also want to hear your perspective on the situation, the absence of laws to protect whistleblowers in Nigeria.
Well, sir, thank you for organizing this and with PRIMORG. I'm wondering, though, to begin with, don't we have laws? I mean, if you look at the FOI Act, there is a provision there on whistleblowers, which nobody has actually been serious to take a look at. Indeed, in the public service rules, whistleblowers are supposed to be protected as well. So the first question is, I would pose, and I hope that you and the panelists and audience would attend to this, is why it is that that people don't even want to comply with the minimal obligations we have at the moment with reference to whistleblowing and the protection of those who are involved in it. And the reason I pose that question is, if we can't deal with the little provisions that we have at the moment, where are we going to get compliance from for a more elaborate edifice of laws? The fact of the matter is that our public service is configured in such a way that whistleblowing is discouraged. Those who wish to do it the system makes it very known for them that they have no hiding place. And because of that, if we don't address those realities, it will be quite impossible to expect that a more elaborate system of protections will go anywhere, because the underlying attitudes and configuration of our public service space are quite fundamentally opposed to transparency, to whistleblowing, to any effort to ensure accountability for malfeasance in the way that accommodates the role that whistleblowers play. And our accountability systems in the courts themselves are also at the moment not configured to tolerate that either. So how do we create an incentive system that enables whistleblowers to get some protection? And that is practical. I don't think any piece of law is going to affect that.
Okay, what we're looking at now is we put together a lot of thoughts to be able to bring this whistleblower policy to bear in Nigeria. Do you think we did enough work, and are there experiences from other countries to borrow from?
Well, and that's what I'm laying before us. We can have all the policies we want. By the way, it's not just at the federal level. You also need to cascade whatever you do to the subnational level, at the state level. Because Nigeria is a federal system. And how do you create an institutional and attitudinal framework that orientates the system to a different way of doing things? We can look out to the rest of the world all we want. At the end of the day, we've got to deal with a Nigerian reality. And I know the challenges I faced at the National Human Rights Commission, just trying to convince under 600 staff and members of the governing council that the Equine Act was a good piece of law and that whistleblowing was a good thing to do, and I did not succeed. Those are the people who are supposed to hold forth on human rights and on transparency in Nigeria. If I could not persuade them, and if they could not be persuaded, how are we going to persuade a country that's got lower thresholds of tolerance, awareness, and education on these things? That is my question, and we've got to deal with it practically. It's not just a mind experiment, it seems to me. It's a practical issue. It's a practical engineering proposition.
Okay, by way of recommendation, what would you say to the whistleblower who is afraid and to the government that appears to be dragging your feet?
I don't know. I can't tell you I have a magic bullet. As civic actors, I think we've got to begin to think about creating our own mechanisms of protection. One possibility would be a whistleblowers fund. A whistleblowers fund, which could be a consortium administered by a consortium of interested actors, in which we are able to make some selections for particular whistleblowers and help support them to demonstrate that whistleblowers serve a policy, a purpose. And that's part of what I mean by addressing the incentive or disincentive system. If we can do that, we'll probably be able to persuade the government with public institutions and politicians with results that are practical.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Chidiodin Kalu. We thank you, former chairman of the National Human Rights Commission. We appreciate you for your intervention.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on now to Godwin Onyacholom, who is of AfricMil. AfricMil has been at the forefront of the campaign to ensure whistleblowers are protected in Nigeria. But let's hear you. Where are we now? I know that you've had a lot of them working, particularly with one of those who was dismissed in one of the ministries and was reinstated. I must commend your work, but what is the way forward?
Not actually one. AfricMil has worked with about 5 whistleblowers now. 2 has been reinstated. 3 are still languishing out there, and we're still working towards ensuring that they get restitution. What's been happening is that it remains a policy, the whistleblowing policy. Has no legal backing yet, but then even within the policy itself, there is a provision for protection. So what we have, the challenge we face is that of enforcement. Government itself is not complying with its own provision. There's a provision for the protection of whistleblowers within their own policy, which they made in December 2016, but they don't comply with that. As Chidi Odinkalu said. I think that it's about the will to ensure that public servants, people who work in the public sector, are accountable. They don't show it. They don't demonstrate that willingness to be accountable. They don't even want to. When they deal with civil society, they don't even want to show it that they really want to be honest with you in terms of how to implement their own programs. So we've seen it all over the place. So it's about one of complying with their own provision to protect whistleblowers. And there is no way you can encourage whistleblowing if you don't protect them. If you don't protect them, they face a lot of... Whistleblowers are at a very great risk in this country. I mean, all over the world. That's not to say that there is no guarantee for zero reprisal. If you want to blow the whistle, you must make up your mind that there might be retaliation, retribution. There is no guarantee for zero reprisal at all. But for it to be effective, for it to work well in a society, there has to be protection for those who show, because it takes a lot of courage to come out to say you want to make reports, to make disclosures.
Do you think the problem is with the whistleblower or with the law?
No, the problem is not with the whistleblower. The governments are making legislations to ensure that, organizations all over the world, some are putting in whistleblower procedures all over the place, which is not happening here. So it's not about the whistleblower, it's about the willingness. Is there a political will within the state itself to ensure that this happens? It's lacking.
All right, thank you very much. Let's move on now to hear the experience of a whistleblower, the story of another victim, Ahmed Joseph. He was dismissed from his job for blowing the whistle at the Federal College of Education Technical in Asaba. Welcome to the program, Joseph.
Good afternoon. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, welcome. Well, Joseph, you saw the corruption and you reported to ICPC, then you got dismissed. How are you fighting your battle?
Sir.
Who has come to your aid, and probably what are you doing to get back your job?
Well, let me briefly narrate as follows. Though the matter presently is in court, my greetings to well-meaning Nigerians on board. I am Ahmed E. Joseph, an architect chartered.
Okay.
Actually,
I will advise that you report to us to the point just before discussions in the court. So just tell us the story, so we don't go against the law courts.
It's okay. Yes. Just like I said, I speak in great dismay about ordeals of my corruption in our dear country. Should I wish to be born elsewhere, my answer remains no, because my country is blessed also. So lovers of the country must stand firm to combat this cankerworm in any small or major position that we hold. I insist, I am, not was. Even if it remains only one righteous man standing here in Nigeria. I am the head of Physical Planning Division of Works and Services Department, Federal College of Education Technical, Asaba, a federal institution funded by federal government funds. I speak on corruption that upon assumption of duty, I saw corruption that has been institutionalized with impunity, carried out as a matter of routine and indeed a multi-billion naira one, conferring monstrous financial and unmerited favors to the numerous participants. I was faced with the alternative of being a part of the looting and corruption against the blessed country of ours, or refuse and be treated as an enemy and an outcast for 10 whole years, as it has been now.
10 years?
10 good years, yes, sir. So over the period of 10 years, I have suffered all manners of official, psychological, and physical intimidation for daring to speak out against the institutionalized frauds, to the extent that in anticipation of my reactions, I have been labeled a petition writer by the provost, queried, threatened to be dismissed and warned not to speak out against all these improprieties carried out mainly in the areas of projects with far-reaching consequences beyond economic, such as loss of life even, of visitors, staff, and students' population in the event of building collapse, which has been experienced once in mid-2019, but students lucky to escape being on vacation. That was the library building. That I give instances of my frustration. Despite my reports and pending investigation by ICPC, these fraudulent acts have continued unabated and with greater impunity, and boast that ICPC has been settled, and the plot to dismiss me as the obstacle to the success of their evil activities now actualized by a letter of termination of service dated 13th May 2020 to permanently silence my voice. Upon report of my termination, even ahead of time to ICPC, the only response I got from the ICPC by phone call and email from the petition registry was to warn, report threats of life to police, even when the IPO had asked me to draft a letter to be endorsed by them before so. Then 2, the matter of my dismissal to court, with which fund. Then 3, high cost of producing massive documentation, the telephone, transportation, inter and intra, and lodging for weeks, honoring invitation by ICPC at their headquarters in Abuja. At the time, I just realized I was on my own, in the course of a national duty, in the course of standing up against corruption. My challenge is now, the fear impacted on my children. The day that I had no choice than call and informed them that I was being trailed by a dark-tinted Toyota Avensis car and drove around town in an attempt to shake them off. But they followed me right down to my house, and then I was compelled to do a letter to the area command, of which till this moment I've heard nothing. So the effect of their relocation and sudden change of school in the middle of a term as a result of this fear for my life, the cost of maintaining 2 homes, and then most traumatizing is the kids missing fatherly supervision, love, and care. They're being terminated after service of court process to the institution seeking to restrain them from the intention and avail me a fair hearing in a competent court with the jurisdiction. And then what we hear as rumor in the institution is that the provost says that I must stay out until her time is done looting.
Okay, all right.
Then the allegation of compromise against ICPC.
Joseph, thank you very much. Your story is very touching, and I'm sure that people have heard the meat of it. We'll, however, continue to refer to it in this discussion. But we need to move now to another guest who is with us in the studio. This is Tunde Salman, who leads the Good Governance team. And thank you very much for listening patiently and for joining us on this.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
All right, looking at both cases, starting with that of Fidelia Onoga-Ife and Joseph Ame, they're still ongoing. Whistleblowers really appear to have a dampened spirit. How do we reawaken the spirit of many Nigerians who may have been demoralized and made uninterested by the persecution that whistleblowers face?
Okay, thank you very much. I think one thing needs to be clear. The fear or the concerns that the law will not be complied with should not be the reason why we should not have the law in place. We need the law, we need to have the whistle protection law in place. We have seen the live stories that have been given. We have seen the challenges a whistleblower, a patriotic Nigerian who works with a Netherlands embassy faced. Without this jurisdiction, without this regime in place, even the ability of the public administration to know how to protect them will be limited. We understand our public bureaucracy. We know how the public administration in Nigeria works. If we don't have a clear-cut legislations, if we don't have a clear-cut law in place, the perceptions of policies, pronouncement and law is quite different, meaning that the policy pronouncement by government is seen as weaker. But when you have a strong law in place, that gives the whistle protection some kind of confidence that at least there are clear-cut jurisdiction, the provision in our law. Already we all know, constitutional provision says that it is a duty bound on every Nigeria to report commission of criminal offences. The Court of Appeal, Supreme Court have made this pronouncement, but we have seen the lethargy from Nigerians in the fact that even if we report, what is it going to happen? And in most other society, there are stronger, stricter rules, legislations in place to protect and dissuade the concerns, the misgiven concerns by the people that nothing will happen. These are life stories. The one from the Netherlands embassy. Thank God the court in the Netherlands had said this is a clear case of whistle protection, and the case we don't have, and series of other cases make it clear that we have a serious problem at hand. And law, part of the processes, part of the functions of law is to address societal problems. And if you don't have such law in place, it shows that what is the genuineness of all the so-called noise about fighting corruption? By the time we have a new government, by the time this government pass, how do we institutionalize such kind of pronouncement if we don't have a legislation in place?
All right, thank you very much, Tunde Salman, who leads the Good Governance team. We appreciate you for coming through for us. It's still the Radio Town Hall, brought to you by PRIMORG and supported by MacArthur Foundation. We move now to another of our guests who has been staying. He joins us via the telephone. Dr. Kole Shettima is Africa's director of the MacArthur Foundation, and they have been massively supporting the efforts to stamp out corruption in Nigeria. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much for having me as well.
All right, let's have your perspectives on the lamentation so far about the absence of strong laws to protect whistleblowers in Nigeria.
Well, I think I agree with Tunji and the previous other speakers about the need to have a stronger regulation on whistleblower protection. I think that we are aware that the current policy that we have in place is an administrative policy, which, by the way, is good, and it has done a lot of good things by enabling or kickstarting a number of regulations for a number of people who have come forward to report on a number of problems and issues that they have seen in their place of employment, or even places of person that they know have committed grievous crimes against the country. But I think that I think everyone what is saying is that, okay, when can we take the next step? The next step is to have to go beyond an administrative policy, but to have a law that gives a stronger support for whistleblowers. And we know that this has been an issue in the National Assembly for some time now, and we are hoping that this National Assembly will complement all the other work that is being done around anti-corruption by legislating a stronger whistleblower protection, so that whistleblowers are protected. But also, I think the issue of incentivization. How do we also make sure that people who come and report, how can we incentivize them to come and report? And of course, I think we should also consider whether there is need for sanctions, so that people who are just going to make some frivolous claims against others are also deterred from coming up and making a smear campaign against other people as well. Yeah.
All right, sir. So, but how is MacArthur Foundation supporting the protection of whistleblowers?
Well, I'm happy to say that we have been discussing with a number of our grantees, including AfricMill, who have been doing some work, and a number of other organizations like SERAP and HEDA, and CISLA, who are all interested on this issue. I think that they are trying to see whether it is possible to them for them to work with the executive arm of the government and also to do some public education with the legislators and see whether this National Assembly will be able to pass a law that will protect whistleblowers in the country. But I think the other thing that we have to think about is that apart from a national policy, which I think is important, I think we should also be thinking about, how do other institutions within their own, how organizations within themselves, how can we have whistleblower also policies within organizations as well. So, for example, we know that some organizations already have whistleblower policies. So how do we really make sure that whatever that is being done at the institutional level is also complemented at the national level and vice versa as well?
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Kole Shettima, African Director of the MacArthur Foundation. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye.
All right. All right, we'll move on now. But we have with us in the studio, while the calls, I just keep the calls coming in, the president of the Civil Liberties Organization, Igu Akerega, who, of course, is also the Abuja Bureau Chief of the Guardian newspapers. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So do you think that our anti-graft agencies are doing enough to shield whistleblowers?
Well, the anti-graft agencies, I think they are part of the problem. First, the federal government of Nigeria has, particularly the National Orientation Agency and the Federal Ministry of Information. There's this slogan they have, see something, say something. That presupposes that it is supposed to encourage whistleblowers as part of citizen participation in deepening the democratic process to unveil corruption and unveil looting of public patrimony and all of that. But what do we have? The anti-graft agencies themselves, I think they're also complicit. I have a personal experience. 3 young men were referred to me sometimes 2 years ago, really, that they have a major case with a bank, a first-generation bank. Then they wrote a petition to the Economics and Financial Crimes Commission, then under the supervision of Ibrahim Magu. And once that petition was written, it involved quite a complicated network of the first generation bank, some international oil companies, and some highly placed Nigerians. So once I looked at the document, I knew the matter itself was going to be complicated, but they had already blown the whistle. They've written a petition to the EFCC. The EFCC chairman had interviewed them and asked them to come in 3 days' time. And once they returned after 3 days, they were stopped at the gate. And from there on, they couldn't sleep in their houses there. Then people were then trailing them to, if I killed them. They ran back to me to ask if I was the one that, I said, how can I be the one? So I went and sought audience with the EFCC chairman. That is Magu. He is aware of this. I met him and I confronted him. What is going on? People reported this is about 2.4 billion naira lodged in the first generation bank. There was no BVN, nothing. And then an insider in the bank informed these young men who are interested in Nigeria, patriotic Nigeria, who blew the whistle, who we want to know who owns this money, who put it there, and all of that. So whilst all of that was on, they started withdrawing the money. This IOC that I talked about is somewhere in Eket in Akwa Ibom State also. And so the EFCC chairman, seeing the kind of questions I was posing at him, was also worried, called 3 of his men and told them to take me to a room where they tried to explain. They were even mentioning in the name of a former finance minister, whom I know is very credible, but they couldn't defend the issue. I myself also became threatened at some point. They were asking me whether I was convinced that the explanations to me about who kept the money, how the money was moving out, whether I was convinced. And looking at their faces, it would appear as if I say no, I wouldn't even get to my own house. So I agreed that, well, I think your explanation makes some sense, but maybe we'll move forward the discussion at some point. Once I left there, I also didn't sleep in my house for a few days because some strange faces were also coming. So that is how anti-graft agencies themselves are also part of the problem. Edwidge Cleaver, an English philosopher, says that you are either part of a problem or part of a solution. So the anti-graft agencies, the ICPC, you saw even the experience of Ame himself, how the ICPC himself, who should fund his transport, his logistics, to come to Abuja, just abandoned him. you know, and then policemen were then brought in to train him. That is the general experience you have. So, as a country, I think that we are not really very ready, you know, to protect our common interests, protect our common resources. I also think that President Muhammadu Buhari himself, who came to power on the mantra of anti-corruption, that he was going to institutionalize and strengthen the anti-corruption fight, I also think that he has a feeble effort towards combating corruption. I would have thought that for any public servant to be employed, it should be mandatory that you swear to an oath and sign a form, you know, to commit to, you know, supporting whistleblowers.
Yeah, will that change anything? Will that change anything?
Well, if they do, for example, if you do that, and certain persons are made as used as example, perhaps people will begin to know that this is a serious effort at, you know, at actually changing our situation. But as it stands today, I really have my doubt and fear that we are not going to go too far, you know, as a country. And of course, it's just a mockery of democracy. So if we do not have a robust, you know, public policy on whistleblowing.
All right, thank you very much, Igor Akerega, President, Civil Liberties Organization, and Abuja Bureau Chief of the Guardian newspaper. I still have my other panelists with me in the studio. We'll just take 1 minute to do a wrap-up. I know that we're taking a look at just a little recommendation to government, to the National Assembly, and on the way forward. Probably start with you, Surajo Olariwaju.
Okay, thank you, Ben. I think it is not just about National Assembly, and I quite agree with what Chidi Odinkalu said at his submission. We have some of the provisions even in the FOI Act. We have some of them in other penal code and other forms of laws that are in existence. So in the absence of the comprehensive whistleblower and information disclosure enactments, we need to start the process of holding the executive, most especially, responsible, not just the Minister of Information and NOA. The police is also culpable. You can hear it from the law enforcement agencies, the anti-corruption agencies are not also rising up to the challenge. And we also need the media and the civil society to continue pushing the frontier. You don't expect the executive. They are also, even the legislator and the judiciary are affected by whistleblowing. So they are not going to ordinarily and willingly concede to some of these requests we're making. So it must be our own collective effort to push the boundary of what we have now. The whistleblower policy was bringing billions, like you said, and suddenly it went down because it started being compromised. People were shortchanging. Even whistleblowers were deprived of the monetary reward that they were promised after they make some of those disclosures. So I think it's important to also identify and deal with all the relevant stakeholders.
All right, let's take Godwin Onyacholom, Senior Program Officer, Afric Mill. Yes, he wanted the civil society and then the media. How we fared that both as media reporting the issues and the civil society helping in the forefront?
Exactly, that's the direction we'll be heading now in the next couple of months. We'll be with our critical stakeholders like HEDA, SERAP, and all the other civil PRIMORG, you know. We'll shortly be calling for a stakeholders meeting. We need to sit down around a table and ensure that, I mean, we make serious efforts toward ensuring that we have a whistleblower law, just as we had the FOI thing. So we've got to have that law. If we don't have that law, you don't know what will happen in 2023. Another government might come in and then there won't be anything like whistleblowing again. Completely, it's gone. So we've got to have that law. Like he said, billions have rolled in through whistleblowing. Just in 3 organizations, NBET, Yaba College of Tech, Federal Mortgage Bank, 3 whistleblowers saved those organizations 22.9 billion naira in the last 3 years.
All right, thank you very much for giving us hope. I'm sure the media will continue to work with civil society to get this on the way. But let's go to Tunde Salman. Good governance, it appears to be an illusion, but is there hope?
Yeah, there should be hope. We should never lose of hope at any time. I think for me, the takeaway from this, in the interim, in the space between now and then, when we might have the law in place, we need to have a mechanism to support the victims. There should be a kind of support mechanism in place where we document, identify, map all the people who have been victims of retaliations, the whistleblowers, and have a program of compensation. Compensation not necessarily in terms of money. It could be in terms of legal advice and support, like what Eda is doing with the case of the woman in the Netherlands embassy. If you have such kind of mechanism in place, our partners like MacArthur can also support in at least put this one in the framework into reality, while we also increased our legislative advocacy for this law to be enacted. We cannot shy away from having the law. When we have a lot of law loose every year and there, even the ability to be able to use it to protect or to achieve what you need may be diminished. That's why the laws is important, and in the interim, we also must ensure we continue your good program to deepen citizens' engagement and awareness creation with these particular tools. A lot of people in the community actually want to reach out. They don't know which agency of government they can reach out. There are a lot of things they can easily solve by reaching out where these issues are, and the practice in terms of the ability of bureaucrats to even understand what needed to be done. Until we have all these intervention, we interface, they may not even know what should be done when it's needed.
Thank you very much, Nde Salman. I'll also take Igu Akerega, President of the Civil Liberties Organization and Abuja Bureau Chief of The Guardian. Yes, you represent two big blocs in the media and civil society. By the way, I should ask, the CLO is not as active as before. What happened? And can we fight like we used to do?
Well, that's a very good question. I've had to be confronted with this question almost everywhere that I go to. First and foremost, people must understand the mandate of the CLO whilst the military were still in power. At that time, what the CLO essentially concerned itself with was how to get the military out of power. The shortcoming of the CLO itself was also how to engage society, how to engage the public space after the military had left. So once the military left, the CLO and other partner organizations succeeded in getting the military out of power, forcing them out of power. The CLO appeared to then have also lost some steam about how to either occupy the political space or further engage. And so those who had stolen money, who had worked with the military in the past, and then warehoused a lot of funds, seeing that the civil society at that time, the CLO was at the forefront, had laid back a bit, simply brought their resources, mobilized their resources, and occupied the space. And we're now finding it very difficult, to uproot them because they are further entrenching themselves, stealing more money, and then it is really, really becoming quite a huge challenge. Now that said, I must also say here that we must review our culture of political engagement. Because Nigeria is not in debt of laws, actually. We have a plethora of laws. But the political will to to ensure that these laws are effective, on the side of the people, I think that is a problem. For the electorates in Nigeria, we are all having the impact, the negative impact of the unwillingness of the political class, to protect them, whether you are a whistleblower, whether in terms of general corruption issues. So the narrative must change. What are the political promises? Elsewhere in other climes, before you are voted into power, you engage the people on the basis of issues. Here, people just come with some bogus proclamation, change or next level, and nobody asks what is next level, what is change. And so when the person gets there, I told you I want to change. The change could either be positive or negative. As we are seeing now, we are now seeing that we are actually changing, but changing from what to what.
Can the CLO help with positive changes?
Yeah, we are reinventing ourselves internally. We are actually rebuilding from inside. And I'm sure in the next few months, people are going to see a different CLO.
All right, thank you very much. I want to know from you, Nigerians, will you still want to blow the whistle? If you have information that can help save this country, will you blow the whistle, or are you still among those who are afraid to share their stories? Well, I'm sure we have had a wonderful time. It's the Radio Town Hall brought to you by PRIMORG with support from MacArthur Foundation. I will have to thank our guest once again for coming through. and say to you all, thank you for listening. We've come to the end of this wonderful radio town hall meeting by PRIMORG, and I'll hand you back to PRIMORG's program manager, Adaobi Obiabumo, who will help us to conclude. I am Ben 200, half human, half amazing. Thank you very much.
Half human, half amazing. Thank you so much, Benjamin Ubiri, for a wonderful moderation. And with this, we've come to the end of this special town hall meeting on the challenge of absence of legal protection for whistleblowers in Nigeria. We appreciate architect Ahmed Joseph, who is a victim of whistleblowing, who spoke to us from Delta State. We also appreciate our resource persons, Dr. Kole Shettima, Professor Chidi Odinkalo, Suraju Olariwaju, Godwin Onyacholem, Igo Akerega, Tunde Salma, and Agbonsuremi Okiria, the Executive Director of PRIMORG. If you have a message for us or you want to react to what you heard on this program, please reach us through 0902-265-6167. That is 0902-265-6167. Or you can send us a mail, info@primorg.org. That is info@primorg.org. Please visit the news page of our website, news.primorg.org. That is news.primorg.org. For all the details of our reports and interviews, visit our website, primorg.org, to get all the information about PRIMORG. PRIMORG is spelled P-R-I-M-O-R-G. PRIMORG's radio town hall meeting against corruption. It's supported by the John T. and Catherine V. MacArthur Foundation, committed to building a more just, verdant, and peaceful world. Get more information about the foundation at its website, macfound.org. We will give you enough notice for our next radio town hall meeting here. Please follow us on our social media platforms at Official PRIMORG to get timely information on our activities. Many thanks for joining us on today's episode of our radio town hall meeting. I am Adaobi Obiabumo.